Hello and welcome to Talking Aussie Books, a new weekly podcast shining a spotlight on Australian fiction. My name is Claudine Tinellis. As a writer and avid reader, I love chatting about books. And in this podcast, I'll chat to authors, publishers and readers, giving you, dear listener, insight into what's hot on the Australian fiction scene. So if you're looking for your next book recommendation or just want to know more about Aussie fiction writers, this podcast is for you. Grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy. This week, I welcome Marita Smith. Marita is the author of two young adult science fiction fantasy novels called Convergence and its sequel Emergence, books 1 and 2 of the Kindred Ties Trilogy, published by Harbour Publishing House. Welcome, Marita.
Hello, thank you, Claudine, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Fabulous. I'm thrilled to have you. Marita, I was fascinated by the premise of these books, but also unsurprised given your impressive background. Not only are you a science graduate of the Australian National University and worked as a paleo-biogeochemist, but you've also worked as a woofer on farms across Europe and now live in a tent on the New South Wales south coast, grow gourmet mushrooms commercially and write books. That's quite an eclectic and fabulous set of skills.
Thank you. Well, you make me sound far more interesting than I actually am. Thank you, Claudine.
I doubt it. That is amazing. Now, your debut, Convergence, was published in May of 2017 and Emergence followed only 12 months later.
Yes.
How long had this story been percolating in your mind before you decided to put pen to paper?
Yes, for quite a while. It makes it sound very impressive. Just whip out a book per year. But yes, I probably started working on the story in about 2014 or 2015. So there's quite a few years of hard slog beforehand, just sort of nutted out before it sort of crystallized into the separate books. So yes, definitely a bit of a multi-year odyssey.
Well, it is very impressive. I mean, notwithstanding 2014 to 2015 working on it, and then, 2017 to, 2018, that's still quite impressive to have two books published.
Thank you. Feels like a long time.
I'm sure it does. So I wanted to ask you, have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yes, when I was really little, I was a really big bookworm when I was little. I used to read while walking around at school and bump into things and and read a lot at home. I was lucky I had parents who just threw books at all of us, which was fantastic. And it was something I'd always wanted to do when I was younger and in primary school. And then you sort of get to high school and you sort of realize that, maybe it's not a viable career option. So I sort of put it on the back burner and focused on my studies and really enjoyed doing all of that. But always in the back of my mind, I think, especially in high school and at university, whenever I was learning about anything in class, thinking like, ooh, would this make a good story? Or what would this happen? What would this mean for a protagonist if, X, Y, Z happened? So no, I'm really, really excited that I've been able to return to that sort of childhood dream of actually manifesting some story and sort of expressing myself a bit more creatively as well.
Indeed. So what is it in particular that attracted you to, a career in writing?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is I love doing my science degree at ANU. It was amazing and I worked with incredible people. And I think it was just being able to understand the world on that sort of a deeper level. So I think having sort of an understanding of the language of chemistry and biology, a little bit of physics, and being able to see the world very differently and sort of that we're just one part of a greater whole. And yeah, it really did inspire the series in a way because I would just often daydream in lectures about various concepts. And I just sort of felt I had to start writing.
That's amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I love it. So Convergence and Emergence, books 1 and 2, as I've mentioned before, they follow the adventures of Robin Green, who's an Australian research scientist who uncovers a genetic mutation in the blood work of a young American boy, leading her to believe that her theory about an ancient gene enabling humans to communicate with animals does actually exist. She quickly learns that Fletcher, the teenager she tracks down in the US, is not the only one with this genetic anomaly. There are others, and unbeknown to Robin, her work is being closely monitored by an insidious organisation, the MRI, who have plans to use her discovery for their own diabolical purposes. This is an amazing storyline, so I wanted to ask you, where did you get the inspiration for the series?
Wow, I think it I've been really lucky to work in my capacity as an honours student, then also as a research assistant at a couple of overseas institutions as well. And I just met a really broad spectrum of scientists from all over the world. And I think the scientists in this book series are very much inspired by people I've met and worked alongside, and the bits of the world that I've travelled to. And I just really love the basis of, I knew I wanted to write a story about a genetic mutation that has quite huge connotations for humanity and our place on the planet. And I just love the simplicity of the mitochondria as sort of the agent of that mutation, because it's an organelle we've sort of had for eons. It's a progenitor from when we came out of the the primordial ooze, and it stayed with us for millennia. And it's just this it's a part of us, but we don't even really think about it, and it's so crucial for our existence. So yeah, to be able to link it to something with a proper scientific basis was really great.
Yeah, amazing. So Robin discovers that three of these kids, the ones with the genetic mutation, are also what are called in the books walkers, and walkers have an important function. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so the walkers have a very specific form of the mutation. So there's three of them, and so there's three for each of the major biomes on Earth. So there's an air walker, a land walker, and a sea walker. So we've got the three major biomes of Earth there. And each of them can communicate with all of the animals from that particular biome. So Fletcher, for instance, he's the earth walker, so he can communicate with all terrestrial animals, which is a pretty big thing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it was really exciting to write about.
There is the sense that you are talking about the human impact on our environment.
Yes.
Did you always intend to talk about this in your books?
Yes, I think that's sort of a bit of a byproduct of doing a science degree, becoming a bit more knowledgeable about climate change. And then after I graduated, I did, as you mentioned before, I spent just about a year working on a range of organic farms through the UK, Wales, and Scotland. Mm-hmm. And I think just being able to have a working knowledge of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the recent reports, and then actually working with people who knew their environment so intimately, it was just, I don't think I could ever turn my back on understanding what we've done to the environment. So it was really important for me to sort of weave that into the storyline to sort of, I guess, not push it down kids' throats or anything, but just to help inform them that we have a really important stewardship role over the planet, and we have sort of neglected it for a while, fortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely comes through. The books deal with a variety of themes in the young adult space. It's a coming-of-age story. It's a story about discovering sexual identity, good versus evil. It also has some amazingly strong female characters and deals with important contemporary themes such as the fragility of the environment, as we were saying before.
Yeah.
Did you always plan to write for the YA audience?
I think I did have it in mind that I wanted to write for a young adult audience, because I'm 29 and I read a lot of young adult novels still, and I think it's a really powerful genre in that it isn't just this demographic limitation. A lot of my friends read a wide range of young adult and new adult novels, and I think it's just this really lovely sort of genre, because it's a time when you can talk about these sort of big issues because you're sort of becoming who you want to be, and being informed about other people's experiences within that space is really helpful but also inspiring.
I also thought that maybe that you thought that there was a gap in the market for this particular type of story as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was hoping. I didn't do any crazy market research, but it is a bit unique in that it has a group of teen protagonists and then a group of protagonists who are sort of in their early to mid-20s. So it's sort of I'm just trying to sort of show to people that it's not necessarily just at that younger age that we are transforming and sort of evolving into, who we're going to be as adults. For a lot of us, that transformation sort of continues into our 20s and early 20s when we are sort of faced with the real world and what we're learning about ourselves and each other. So, yeah, so it is a little bit different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly in Australia, but also globally, there's a significant campaign on foot to encourage more girls to consider careers in science, technology, maths and engineering, or what they call STEM, areas that have traditionally been male-dominated industries. Was that something you also consciously thought about when you were writing these books?
Yes, very passionate about that as well. Because I did science at university, and first year chemistry, bio, physics, there's 300 or 400 students. There's a really great gender mix. It's very inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get down to second year and third year, and I was one of 3 or 4 girls, sort of in most of my classes. There was more of us in terms of a year cohort, but very few doing sort of organic chemistry or computational science or mathematics courses. So
as a mother of an 11-year-old girl, I think it's something I consider when I look at my daughter's reading choices. There needs to be more assertive female characters with skills in this arena, and your female characters are strong, they're universally clever and technologically savvy. So, yeah, I congratulate you on that, because that's certainly come through very strongly in these books. Did you have to do any other research for your novel? I mean, obviously you've got this amazing science background and all your working experience, but anything in particular that you thought, I need to do a bit more research on?
Oh, definitely. I had so much fun researching this book. So looking into some evolutionary theories and sort of, the progenesis of our mitochondria, and then also reading more about electromagnetic radiation and the whole spectrum of electromagnetic waves and how they interact with us and the environment. And it was great to sort of go down all these little rabbit holes and research and just make notes and actually learn a bit more about specific fields that I was interested in that maybe I hadn't gone into depth into in my lectures and that sort of thing as well. So no, it was definitely very, very cool research process.
Indeed. So you live on the south coast of New South Wales, and I wanted to know whether you thought living and working there has influenced or helped you as a writer.
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, yes, I've definitely done all my writing here. So there must be a connotation. Yeah, I'm living in a tent, which sounds very glamorous, I know.
I love it.
It is lovely having your own space that you can sort of retreat to and not be interrupted and do a solid block of writing.
Yeah.
Before I was in the tent, I was living in a caravan, which was also really good. So I think it's possibly the environment is great, but then also just I think being able to mentally tell myself that writing is valuable time as well, to be like, you're working on a project that is important to you, rather than being like, oh, it's just a hobby. You don't really just sort of working in around your other commitments, to be like, no, this is a commitment in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think was an important mental distinction to be able to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it's been worthwhile because you've been able to produce 2 books in an amazing time frame. So, having that discipline and considering it work is obviously working for you.
Yeah, no, I feel so lucky to that Harbour Publishing have taken me on and this series on.
Now, tell me a little bit about your gourmet mushroom enterprise. How has this helped, hindered or informed your writing, if at all?
No, it's been really great. Yeah, so after I did my woofing, I went back to TAFE and I did a horticulture course just because I'd learned so much while I was working on these farms, but I wanted to sort of really cement it and actually get a really good base understanding. And then I was lucky enough to be sent to do a mushroom course in Sydney by the owners of the restaurant where I was working in their market garden. We've got a beautiful restaurant here in Milton called St. Isidore. So Joe and Alex sent me off to do some mushroom growing.
Fabulous.
And yeah, I love it. It's so sciencey. So I've got a bit of a lab where I do all my own culturing, grow my own Petri dish cultures, and then onto the fruiting mushroom stage. So it's been really lovely, actually. It's a nice complement to writing, but then it's also nice because it feeds back into the writing process because I'm writing about people who are using lab techniques and sort of trying to analyze blood samples and things like that as well. Yeah. So it's sort of like I can sort of still very much appreciate what my characters are doing, which is really exciting.
Are there other writers out there from whom you draw inspiration?
Definitely. I'm very eccentric and widely read person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably very much influenced by sort of classic science fiction, but
Yeah.
then also some more modern fantasy, sci-fi crossovers.
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole spec fic genre.
So, what are you working on at the moment?
I am just finishing off book 3 in the series at the moment, so I'm just trying to finalize that to have that ready for next year. So
Okay.
fingers crossed.
Oh no, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure that that'll happen. No problem. When will book 3 be available?
I think it'll be about a similar time frame to this year, so probably May or early June 2019. So yes, it's fast approaching now.
Indeed. Now, good luck with that.
Thank you.
So, Marita, if listeners wanted to connect with you or learn more about your books, where can they find you?
Definitely hit me up on Instagram. I'm just at Marita _Smith. Or go to my website and send me an email. I'm just Marita Smith author at .com.au. Oh no, it's just .com.
So, Marita's books are available from all good bookstores now or can be downloaded from selected e-retailers. Marita, it's been my absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for joining me on Talking Aussie Books.
Thank you so much, Claudine. I had a great time.
Fantastic. And for a chance to get your hands on signed copies of these fabulous books, head over to my Instagram account and follow the directions to enter the draw to win. Thanks, Marita.
Thanks so much, Claudine.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on iTunes or drop me a line via my Instagram at Claudine Tinellis or on my webpage claudinetинellis.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy reading.